Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Godlike Naruto Builds Private Harem with Penny Part 2. So do 4 blue hearts. Comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Harry x Hermione uncensored spicy version, link in description. Why are you laughing, boy? Don't you see? I'm free. I'm free. There are no strings on me. No more guilt. No more regret. No more anything. I can do whatever I want. Tilda unshackled. Killing oneself. Interlude. Naruto stirred to satin sheets and a warm, naked body spooned against his. Hell of a way to wake up, that. For a moment he simply lay there, staring at the ceiling, not quite comprehending what had happened. Common sense swept back in with a start, and he realized he wasn't wearing anything beneath said sheets. There was a brief moment of wild confusion, one in which he wondered where he was and how he'd gotten here, a split second of panic in that nearly lashed out in blind anger. He didn't recognize that ceiling, nor those walls or anything really. Whiskered cheeks crinkled in a scowl, and then a hand touched his face, turning his gaze away from the ceiling with gentle grace. Red eyes met his, framed by a pallid red veined face and small, sinful smile. Good morning. A soft hum graced his ears. Did you sleep well? The blonde's brain balked. Salem. His mangled mind bleated the name as if he should know it. And in a sense, he did. He just couldn't bring himself to care. There was no anger here. No fear, only confusion. For all that, his memory was a foggy mess, twisted and torn. Yet for all that he felt, light. Lighter than he had been in quite some time. As if a great burden had been lifted from his shoulders while he slept. He waited for the guilt to come. It didn't. There was no regret, no shame, no voices in his head to whisper condemnation. She was an enemy, wasn't she? He sat up slowly, not quite trusting himself to speak. There was a gap in his memories a mile long. He remembered being stabbed, and then, nothing. No, wait, he told a lie. He remembered swimming in darkness. A warm body enfolding his lips against his ear. But beyond that, nothing. Oh, he knew who he was well enough, but there was a gap somewhere in his thoughts. Someone took a pair of scissors and simply snipped a bad memory away. He wasn't sure if he ought to feel grateful or not. Where am I? He blinked, surprised by the dissonance of his own voice. Huh, that's new. He frowned and touched a hand to his throat. What did you do to me? I saved you. A pale hand alighted on his chest. I set you free. A pang of memory hit him. He grimaced. I died, didn't I? You did, though through no fault of your own. She didn't lie to him, nothing he could sense at any rate. I brought you back. Well, the queen frowned. Most of you. All the parts that mattered. Your soul came when I called. The rest was tugged, elsewhere. His mouth went dry. Did you split my soul? That was not my intent. She pushed closer, eyes fierce, and he tried to ignore how very warm she was against him. You have your strength. You have your power. I merely released you from your shackles. You crave vengeance against those who have wronged you, and your retribution is not yet complete. Or have you forgotten? The reminder tore a snarl from him. Cinder. Yes. Her lips touched his face, ghosting over a whiskered cheek. She still lives. She hides in beacon like the rat she is. Your weaker self is there as well. Naruto felt his fury flicker despite his best attempts to sustain it. This woman was Cinder's patron. While she had not condoned the torture and torment he'd suffered, she'd practically allowed it, claiming ignorance could only get one so far. But she'd never laid a hand on him. And she had offered him the bitch's head on a platter. And yet, he clicked his tongue. I should kill you. You can try. But we need not be enemies. She trailed a finger along the length of his chest, moving in slow circles. We could be allies. A fire ignited deep inside of him. Why not? Why indeed? There was nothing to hold him back. Any embarrassment or hesitation he might have experienced had been burned away. Like an ingot being shaped in a great fire, he had been reshaped. Reforged. When he looked upon Salem now, he still saw her as an enemy, and yet, something else. He felt only raging desire. So why hesitate? Quick as a flash he jerked upright, looped an arm around Salem's bare waist and pulled her into his lap. She shivered against him in a most pleasant way. Her mouth met his, and for a moment, just a moment, he could have sworn he felt her lips smile against his. It was gone a moment later as her mouth trailed down, nipping against the length of his neck to leave a line of scorching kisses there. A growl tore from him, soon mirrored by her laughter. Her mouth trailed up again as her body crushed against his. Her head tilted, arching her neck to him. I can be a very good friend, Naruto. He tried to muster a retort to that. He really, truly did. But then he was quite distracted by that fascinating thing Salem was doing with her hips. 0.0.0.0. You split his soul. Arthur Watts was a man of science. Salem could respect that, to an extent. Only minutes ago the Queen of the Grim had emerged from her chambers with a smile in her face and a song in her heart. She hadn't been this pleased since she last captured Ozma, and that was a millennia ago. That was one of her better decades. How she enjoyed breaking his host back then. But that was neither here nor there. Science had its limits. So too, did her patience. No, her joy stemmed from others' matters. Physical as well as spiritual. The ritual had worked better than she anticipated. She had him. He was hers. He simply didn't know it yet. Remorse had stripped away by anger, all guilt gone. Any empathy reduced to a mere cinder of its former self. The irony wasn't lost on her. Now her minion's argument threatened to ruin her mood altogether. Must not kill. Tempting though it was, she knew she couldn't lash out and render him a greasy smear upon the wall. No matter how much she might wish otherwise. She spared Watts for a reason. He was essential to her plans in Atlas, and for that, he would live. For now, Tyrion was long since dead. She'd thrown Hazel's comatose form into one of the grim pools. He might make a useful hound someday. He might not. She didn't particularly care one way or another. Cinder was a lost cause, one of her assets already dead, the other likely fled. Her mind had been reduced to a gibbering wreck. But you see, Salem needed Watts with his mind intact. Unfortunately that meant his curiosity remained. It also meant she had to endure his inane prattling, such as it was. I refined him. Salem preened, tucking a stray strand of hair back into place as she leaned against a nearby wall just outside the door. He is pure now. The good Doctor thumbed his chin and appeared to consider that for a long moment. What of the rest? That is of little consequences. She waved a hand in dismissal. He won't last the year. I still don't see how you could. Enough. Her fingers curled into a claw and a dozen shadowy hands emerged from the floor. Grasping at Arthur's ankles. This is magic, not science. It is beyond your ken. You will be civil to him or you will be replaced. Do you understand? He demurred with a frown. Yes, my queen. The door creaked open and Arthur stiffened, face gone pallid. He had every right to be afraid. Last time, Naruto had taken an eye. This time might take much more. Naruto emerged with a skip in his step. Looking well rested and healthier than he'd ever been. She'd summoned a seer to bring him one of Tyrion's older outfits until proper clothes could be found for him. White suited him rather nicely, she found. She'd need to secure proper vestments for him later, but perhaps adjustments could be made. What's up, Doc? Until her ally saw Watts. Arthur regarded him warily, lone eye narrowing in obvious distaste. Hello. Silence stretched between the two of them. Salem savored it all with a patient smile born of eternity. 'Twas a rare thing indeed to see Arthur at a loss for words. A hand rose, absently touching his artificial eye. Good. He remembered the pain. Perhaps it would keep him from going astray again. It was too much to hope he wouldn't scheme and plot. Human nature, that. The change was instant. One moment Naruto was smiling up at Arthur, the very picture of innocence. Then that smile became a scowl and Watts found himself trapped against a wall by a giant crimson claw. Naruto or Yami, as he had begun to refer to himself, reared back and slammed the doctor against the hardened stone. Once, twice, thrice. Stone shattered. Aura buckled. Arthur cried out in pain. Then terror as the last of the wall crumbled away and he saw the sheer drop below. The giant crimson hand tightened around, drawing a fresh groan from the battered scientist. If you ever muck about with me again, I'll kill you. We clear. A whimper. Crystal. Great. Just like that, the bedraggled blonde brought him back to the floor, smile smooth as silk. Looking forward to working with you. Now run along before I take your other eye. Arthur didn't need to be told twice. He scarpered. Salem followed him with a bemused smile. You're being awfully blasé about this. Am I? Gleeful blue eyes rounded on her. burning into red as she looked on. I don't think so. He raised his hands, marveling at them. I'm finally free. No more restraints. Nothing. Said palms curled into fists, fingers clenching into claws. No guilt to hold me back. No shame to shackle me. There are no strings on me. Quick as can be, he pivoted and marched toward the hole he'd created. Let's go outside. I wanna fight you. He cracked his knuckles with an audible pop. Time to test my limits. I need to know what I'm capable of before I deal with him. Wonderful. She didn't even have to goad him into seeking out his weaker half. I've got energy to burn. And afterward, well, he laughed, and it was a sharp, ugly sound. I wouldn't say no to more of that. With a wild whoop, he flung himself out of the aperture and hurtled to the ground below. Salem quirked a brow, smiled, and dove after him. She'd created a monster. Quite all right, that. She was a monster herself. 0.0.0.0. Something had changed. Cinder felt it in her heart of hearts, her very soul. Amber had died. Her power passed to another. She swore to find them. 0.0.0. A continent away, Naruto woke in a hospital bed. It must be one. Because everything was so bloody bright and white, enough to sting his eyes and force them shut all over again. The faint ping of a heart monitor filled his ears, an everlasting, steady beep. Beep beep that threatened to drive him mad just as much as the IV in his arm. Blast it. Everything ached. Why was he here? It felt like his very soul had been split in two. There was a weight on his chest. Blue orbs narrowed in concern and looked down. His lips pursed in a confused frown, not quite comprehending what had transpired. Even in his bleary state he recognized the bundle of red and blah. CK nestled against his thankfully clothed body. She'd all but laid claim to his right arm. Her hands were folded around his, as if she were trying to will some of her very life force into him. Strange. He tried to speak, but his voice failed him. Third time was the charm. Ruby. The poor girl jerked upright with a yelp and stumbled back, hands flailing wildly. Wide eyes regarded, frightful and burning. No, actually burning, he realized, as in literal silver flames trailed from the edges of her gaze to burn away in the air like wisps of so much smoke. She saw him. He saw her. Pale lips parted. Penny. Naruto furrowed his brow in mild confusion. I'm not Penny. What are you on about? A missile of red petals slammed into his chest. Breath burst from his lungs. Ruby scarcely noticed. Penny. She squeezed him tighter. Cold tears soaking through the front of his hospital gown. Everybody. He's awake. The door slammed open and a riot of color descended upon him. Everything descended into a whirl of motion and everyone went stark raving mad. Young barreled through and latched onto his shoulder. Blake was babbling at him, while Weiss had landed on his ankles somehow and oh dear, Pen. NY looked positively stricken with relief. All the while Ruby latched onto his chest like a limpet. Hey, he shouted into the din. I can't understand any of you. You're all talking over each other. Ruby sniffed. You were asleep for so long. We thought you were dead. ... I got better. Yang winged. Smooth move, loverboy. It was the wrong thing to say. Ruby sniffled. Her eyes watered and her arms tightened around him anew. When she attempted to sit down, she promptly found herself floating. Glowing silver eyes narrowed as she scowled at her boots. Naruto blinked back, mildly alarmed by the sight before him. The entirety of Team PRWBY palmed their faces. All right. Ruby's legs kicked uselessly in the air. This is gonna take some getting used to. Since when can you fly? She made a keening noise through her teeth. It's a long story. Naruto laughed, but throughout it, a curious weight persisted in his chest. It felt like he'd lost something terribly important. He couldn't remember what. Whatever it was, surely it couldn't be that bad. He was alive, and surely that was all that mattered. No. The door slammed open and he dared a smile. It died an ugly death with James Ironwood stormed in, his face a stern mask. Oh, dear. He remembered him. He wished he didn't. Penny snapped off a salute. Hello, sir. James ignored her. He only had eyes for one target. A pit of dread. Oh. Penhead in Naruto's stomach as the general advanced. You're awake. Ironwood grunted briskly. Good. I didn't want to do this to a dead man. Do what? A pair of heavy manacles slammed down against his wrist. The other locked against the bed rail, effectively binding him in place. Ruby cried out and fell to the floor, shock and anger allowing her to reassert some control over herself. Just as well too, because Naruto wasn't feeling in control at all right now. Blue eyes fluttered in a rapid blink. What's going on? By the authority of Atlas, you are under arrest. Ruby sputtered fiercely. For what charge? Ironwood's forehead slammed into hers. Murder. Rise, my child. Your battle is not won. There is still work yet to be done. Stand and meet the sun. Tilda awakening. Killing authority. You've left us no choice, Ozpin. Just like that, they damned him. The fools. Head councilman, the immortal stiffened in his seat behind his desk as regarded the screen before him. I assure you that not all is as it seems. Enough. The rebuke from the screen silenced him. The vital festival tournament cannot be broadcast, let alone held if we are unable to assure the safety of the citizens. Therefore, the councilman cleared his throat, his ace still hidden in shadow. We have reached out to the Atlas Council and together, have decided that the best option is to appoint General Ironwood as head of security for this event. A muscle jumped in Ozpin's jaw. Irritation spiked and the weary soul once known as Ozma shoved it back down with relentless determination. This mustn't register on an emotional level. They didn't understand. They could never understand. To reveal the truth to them would only sow the seeds of chaos and do Salem's work for her. He could but endure, as he always had, and so he grit his teeth, stewing in silence as the fools prattled on. Thank you, councilman. Only an arm's length away at his side, James sketched a humble bow. Our kingdom is happy to lend as many troops as it takes to ensure that this event runs as smoothly and safely as possible. His gaze met Ozpin's over his shoulder. You have my word, and we thank you, General. What of the prisoner? Stewing in a cell, just like Torchwick. We suspect he might have been working with him to spread unrest in Beacon. Excellent. We'll have his trial once the festival concludes. Nothing further from the truth. That boy had nearly given his life to stop that train and he'd proven himself since, that poor pitiful soul. But he couldn't say it aloud. Not yet. Not with so many ears listening. And these fools wanted to execute him. No, he'd not allow it, so he held his tongue. And he waited. There were times when Ozma regretted allowing democracy to flourish. Things had been so much easier when he was the king of Vale. When his word was the final say. He'd never longed for those days. He did now. It felt like the world itself was working against him, trying to undo all he'd done. Bad enough with Salem's actions. But now his own allies, the very people he sought to protect, working against him. Even his timeless patience had its limits. And he was nearing his. Instead, he sighed. Will that be all? For the time being, it wasn't, of course. It never was. But after this festival comes to a close, we are going to have a serious discussion regarding your position at Beacon Academy. The words struck him like a physical blow. General Ironwood's reports of these last few weeks have left us somewhat concerned, to say the least. Their ingratiating tone did nothing for them. I'm sure you understand. Irritation became anger. They dared. To challenge him was one thing, but to remove him from Beacon when he'd done nothing but his best. They could try. They would not succeed. Time and time again, he dragged humanity through the primordial mud, only for their petty differences and misguided conceptions to bring them long again. He'd seen good men and women dragged down by the cruelty that was life. He'd made more mistakes than any man, woman, or child. The screen closed with a click, and he snapped back to reality. This is the right move, Ozpin. James wasted no time in making his case, the stubborn oaf. I promise, I will keep our people safe, you have to trust me. His rejoinder proved swift. You're making a mistake, James. Am I? We're bringing a murderer to hang for his crimes. This is justice. He truly believed that, didn't he? Somehow that made this even more painful. In his heart of hearts, James Ironwood was a good person. He was a bastion of peace and order. Someone who had stood fast against Salem for years now. Just like Leonardo and Theodore. There was a thought. He hadn't spoken with Leo in quite some time now. No. Focus. James was still speaking. And he'd had enough. With him and Torchwick in custody, no one can possibly. Ozpin's fist struck his desk, cutting him short. Do you truly believe that? I am doing what must be done, old friend. He looked away. A monster like him deserves no mercy. In all fairness, Ozpin was not a man who angered easily. He had only ever truly felt rage 3 times in his life. The first came with the death of his children. It was the price he paid for his own foolishness. The second when he realized his mistake with the maidens. They had been good girls, reminding him so much of those he'd lost, but those who followed were not. The third once he realized just how powerless he was to stop Salem. He could delay her, yes, but never defeat her, keep any victory out of her grasp, but never bring this war to a close. And now, this was the 4th time. Ozpin rose from his chair. Silently, he reached down. Picked up his cane. James. Clench your teeth. Oz. His cane cracked out and struck Ironwood dead in the chin. His head snapped back. It was only 1,000 lifetimes of experience that turned a lethal blow into merely painful one. Ozpin's stance shifted at the last instant. A Seiko. ND strike smote the stunned general in stomach, slamming through aura to drive the breath from his lungs. His feet left the floor, just in time for a third strike to slam down between his shoulders. His third and final impact slammed him face first into the floor, leaving a decidedly human-shaped impression behind. A dull crack echoed through the headmaster's office. Ironwood made a noise not unlike a strangled Beowulf. Ozpin walked over and nudged his old friend over with one foot to roll him over. Do you have any idea what you've done? James tried to rise and the cane came down on his torso, pinning him where he lay. You fool. I don't understand. He blinked up at him with a low wheeze. Why are you so angry? The sheer heat of the immortal's stare pinned him more than any weapon possibly could. No, you don't understand what you've done, James. Then allow me to enlighten you, old friend. Ozpin spoke slowly, the words a low, furious growl. You took a broken young man, RLY hollowed from the inside out by the literal personification of evil, and you gave him hope. He paused for effect, allowing the words to sink in. Then you gave him Penny. Someone good, someone pure, someone with whom he could talk, someone with whom he could share his demons, someone to bond with. James opened his mouth to speak, only to be silenced as that cane pushed against his throat. I truly believe that boy was sent to us by the gods. He came when we needed him most. And what did you do? Silence reigned supreme. I gave him Miss Rose. His old friend continued. That girl I's the very embodiment of purity and hope. I hoped she might heal his scars. And for a time, she did. I had hoped that he would triumph over his demons. Then you took her away too. He snapped his fingers, producing an audible pop that echoed through the tower. Without a word, without so much as a warning. All for a mistake that wasn't his fault. Tell me, James, those very same fingers came together, planting themselves atop his cane. What do you think will happen once he realizes he's never going to see the light of day again? Ironwood growled up at him. He killed people, because he was provoked. Ozpin thundered back. The footage proved it. It was not Ruby who led him astray. The assailant acted first and paid with her life. A growl greeted him and the long memory withdrew at last, allowing his old friend to prop himself up on his elbows. Her teammate fled. Is that not proof of guilt? When James subsided with a growl, he pressed his point home. Their leader, this Cinder girl, remains a gibbering wreck. Interrogate her if you must. It doesn't change what he did. And what had Naruto done? Been led astray by a semblance, perished, become a monster, then lashed out in a blind panic. This was, none of it, his fault. No, the fault lay elsewhere. This was Salem's doing. He just knew it. James failed to realize it. Understandable, really. He'd lost good men to Naruto's rampage. Team CRDL had fallen as well. Unfortunate, but they hadn't obeyed the order to retreat. No, he decided. He would not let this stand. Tread carefully, James. I won't allow you to drag an innocent man through the mud to satisfy the masses. Ironwood grit his teeth. Then you doom us all. On the contrary, I won't sacrifice our soul for the sake of victory. Hypocrisy. For a frightful moment, Ozpin wondered if he should simply slay him where he lay. It was a dark thought, a whisper in his ear from his warrior days. It would be so very easy. He was faster than James. Stronger. Metal would avail him not. His tunnel vision was a dangerous thing, and he seemed intent upon punishing a blameless man. But no, he would not take that step. Perhaps if James had betrayed him in a true sense, but he hadn't. Not yet. In the end, he let him climb to his feet. James stood. Ozpin he watched him like a hawk. Where are you going? A steely eye flashed out over his shoulder. To speak with that boy. Where else? Be warned. Ozpin frowned after him. If you do not release him by tonight, I will see it done myself. Council be damned. James jolted. You would truly go to war over this. Not for you. For him. His cane clicked once against the floor. Make no mistake, the boy allowed you to take him. The Sultan, if he realizes what you intend, he will escape. And then, Ironwood went remarkably still for what seemed an eternity moment. Then he turned and marched to the elevator. Ozpin let him go. No more words were said between the two of them. They had both said their piece. His shoulders slumped as the doors closed. If his old friend saw sense and listened, all the better. If not, well, it would pain him to see James come to harm, but at the end of the day, Naruto was a far more powerful ally than an angry general. The elevator doors creaked open again almost immediately. Speaking of allies, Ozpin pivoted, saw who was within and smiled softly. Hello, Miss Rose. You're just in time. 0.0.0.0. Naruto stood before a horned giant. Rise, my champion. He blinked. What did you just call me? Your battle is not won. There is still work yet to be done. Stand and meet the sun. A large golden palm stretched toward him. He reached towards it. 0.0.0.0. Blue eyes opened in the dark. That dream again. Naruto tried to shake his head but his chains wouldn't allow it. Even the limited movement of raising his head proved a struggle. Perhaps that was intentional on Ironwood's part. In theory, the less movement he made, the less chance he had of exerting his prodigious power. Thick shackles held his arms and legs down, and a heavy collar claimed most of his neck, all but binding him to the wall. Could he break them? Maybe. He wasn't sure he could in his current state. He felt strange, cold, freezing, really. His teeth chattered. Apparently metal cells did precious little for warmth. Who knew? But no, this was more than a matter of temperature. His body felt off. Not weak, but not strong either. Like a piece of his soul had been ripped away, taking some of his strength with it, yet leaving him oddly refreshed all the same. The voices were gone, all the trauma. All the pain, every bit of it. Salem hadn't spoken to him since he'd awoken. He couldn't feel her presence in his mind. He couldn't feel much of anything, really. His chakra was still there, burning bright. But something was missing. Instead, he felt something else. A light burned at the edge of his senses, ready to be grasped. You still alive in there, kid? He snarled, concentration shattered. Go away. Roman. Now, muffled laughter greeted him through the wall of his cell. Is that any way to treat a friend? The blonde grit his teeth. We're not friends. You tried to kill all those people in Vale. Wah, are you still upset about that train snafu? When Naruto refused to answer, he heard the man harumph. Not like I had a choice. You know how she is. Obey or die. Suppose I ought to thank you, though. Another chortle rippled through the air. From the sounds of it, you threw a wrench in her plan. Good on ya. I might actually live to see the end of this, now. Cheers Tilda. The blonde grit his teeth. He should have felt hatred for Cinder. Now he couldn't even muster that. The burning fire that once coursed through him whenever he thought of her had been doused to sullen embers. Rather than rage, he felt only pity for her. It must be hard being such a small-minded person. To live your life so consumed by the need for power and nothing else, not even bonds or kindness. She'd never be happy. One way or another, she would pay for what she'd done. He suspected she already had. Indeed. A new voice chimed. I suppose you could call it karmic retribution. My brother was always fond of such. Naruto twitched. What in the world? Kid. Roman's voice echoed. You talking to yourself or something? Naruto ignored him, for the faintest shimmer of golden light danced in his peripheral vision, vague and indistinct. He tried to turn his head, but the collar protested. Violently. An electrical charge shot through it, causing every fiber of his being to lock up. A choked cry forced itself through his teeth. He rode it out, spots dancing in his eyes and slumped against his chains. Such a cruel creation. Something chided in the back of his head. Mankind has not improved since our departure. At first he was afraid, fearing he was seeing things again. Not so. Before his very eyes the light shifted, and he found himself face to face with something golden and gilded. A strange being stood before him, humanoid, yet so much more. It lacked a face, yet twin curved horns jutted from its head, honed to tapered tips. Whatever it was large. So much so that it had to hunch over to fit in such an enclosed space. "We meet again." It regarded him for a long moment. "You look unwell." Again. He would have remembered meeting something like this. "The hell are you? You have forgotten me, then." As he looked on, that blank visage shifted before his eyes, taking on a smaller form. "Unsurprising. You have endured a great deal since you came to this world." "That was not my intent." It reached out a hand toward his collar. "May I? Well, in for a penny." Naruto shrugged helplessly, then hissed as another shock shot through him, Rsing down his shoulders to sear his throat. In response, the ethereal being reached out and touched a hand to the device sheathing his neck. A single touch had the device spitting sparks like a sullen circuit. The eldritch being withdrew, regarding him intently. "You asked who I am. In a word, God. One of two." That was its answer. Naruto snorted. "Don't be absurd. God doesn't exist. And yet here I am. I brought you to this world. From the ashes of your dead one." "Liar." Something stirred in him. It felt like anger. "You didn't bring me to this world." His jaw clenched. "Pain did." Pain. The golden serpent lacked the means to convey facial emotions, but its tone could only be called amused. "Ah. The being you called Nagato. Is that what you believe?" "Yes. No. Maybe so." Uncertainty plucked at him. "I don't understand." His mind reeled, not comprehending. "What's going on? Why are you here?" "Ozpin has striven long and hard, but has failed in his duties." The luminescent being raised a hand. "Salem will never accept the true meaning of life and death. You were chosen to bring order. To kill monsters and bring peace to this misbegotten world. You agreed to this. Or have you forgotten even that?" Naruto shook his head. There was certainly something about those words, but for the life of him, he genuinely didn't recall anything. Everything was a blur. He could be speaking the truth. Or it could be a grand deception the like of which he'd never seen. It was a sad thing indeed when he found the former more likely. "Then why are you here?" Tears pricked at the corner of high eyes. "Why am I? Was it all a lie?" Quote. "Not a lie, but balance." That great horned head tilted. "The bonds you have formed here are your own. I had thought to maintain my distance, but your other half has the potential to send Remnant plunging back into the dark ages." Its brow furrowed. "He is stronger than you, has most of your strength and power. Humanity cannot be united so long as he remains unchecked." He offered him a hand. "Swirling with light. Yet as you are now, you stand no chance against him. And unlike my brother, I have no wish to destroy this world. Nor, I suspect, do you." Blue eyes flitted to that gilded hand. He jerked back as far as his chains would allow. "Now wait just a second. This is a bit sudden. What are you doing with that?" "Something that should have been done the moment we met." That same hand came down on his shoulder. "In the name of the light I release you, and by my shoulder, unburden you." Golden fingers tightened upon his collarbone and Naruto's world went white. His head snapped back. Every single cell of his body burst into light and life for a moment, then fell silent. A wordless cry sprang into the air as his voice slumped, "All but you." Unable to move against the sudden influx of energy. His ears rang, and for a moment he could feel anything. See anything. Reality reasserted itself a moment later. "Now, finish this." He heard the footsteps almost too late. Without word or warning, the cell door whisked open. He rounded on the sound, only to find the golden ghost gone. General Ironwood stood before him, flanked by two soldiers, looking a little worse for the wear. Naruto, someone had given him a black eye. Hey, good on him. Seemed he could still feel petty emotions like that at least. It seemed a small thing, but he took solace in that. Was it a dream? It didn't feel like a dream. His every cell was flooded with light now, leaving a new voice to whisper in his ear. "These are your first steps, my champion. Change the world. Bring an end to this. Leave us." The general commanded, heedless of his dialogue. His guards did just that. "Lemme guess." Naruto clicked his tongue, bracing himself for what was to follow. "Is this the part where you beat me?" His voice didn't carry even a hint of emotion. Force me to confess. General Ironwood met his gaze. He stepped inside the cell. Talk. 0.0.0.0. Right. Okay. You can do this, Ruby Rose. Ozpin told you where he is. Just break him out. A moment passed. Then another. Yet another still. Silver eyes flashed with fire. Nobody has to know about this. I can be sneaky. She scowled up at the Atlesian battleship. Flames flickered under her feet. I can do this. 0.0.0.0. He hadn't broken. On a certain level, James admired the young man's tenacity. Bound though he was, the blonde was unbowed. Unbroken. It took a strong will to resist a weak in isolation. Lesser men had broken from this. Even Roman had begun to get a little squirrely days into his confinement. A hardy soul, this one. Pity. In another life he would have made a fine ally. But it was not to be. I've been informed that so far you've refused to cooperate with the authorities. He clasped both hands behind his back. Why is that? I have cooperated. I already told you everything I know. You didn't listen. It might come as a surprise to you. Blue eyes narrowed upon him. But I'm not your biggest fan at the moment. A scowl wrought his face. How about the world's strongest military power? Yeah, no. Lovely. He'd been talking to Torchwick. He'd have to see about moving that one. It wouldn't do to have them plotting. Escape was impossible of course, but the last thing he needed was the two of them colluding together. He had headaches enough without both of them ganging up on him. I'm going to give you one chance. He spoke slowly, enunciating each word with great care. Confess your crimes, and I'll see about getting you a proper meal. Confess to what? The verbal riposte proved scathing. I haven't done anything wrong. James had anticipated as much. He reached under his arm and removed the folder he'd been carrying. With a flick of his wrist a sheaf of photos landed at Naruto's feet, spreading a sea of faces for him to see. The boy's face went ashen, blue eyes widening as beheld the dozen-plus casualties of that night. These are the men you murdered. He spoke over the retching sound he made. Team CRDL among them. You annihilated those boys. You slew those soldiers. That wasn't me. He tore his gaze away from the images. I didn't have control. A fine excuse. You'll hang for what you've done. Scum. Naruto looked up, blue eyes dead and vacant. No, he whispered. I won't. Did he think himself untouchable? No, there was guilt in his eyes for what he'd done. But he glimpsed something else there. Resolve. But to what? He wasn't sure. Whatever it was, it unnerved him. As if something were looking through him, a being of great and unfathomable power. Fine. He hadn't wanted to play this card, and frankly he wasn't the best liar, but we'll have to question Penny, of course. Naruto went still. What? She clearly failed in her duties to observe you. His words seemed to spark something in the prisoner. Anger, perhaps. Just an ember perhaps. Regardless, it roused him all the same. Perhaps she's at fault as well. Don't. He bit the word out. This isn't her fault. I was the one who got tricked, not her. Struck a nerve, have I? He clasped both hands behind his back. Maybe you'll be willing to talk once we've finished with her. The blonde made a keening noise between his teeth. To say nothing of Team RWBY. He gave the proverbial knife a vicious twist for good measure. I understand you and Miss Rose were rather close. Naruto snarled and wrenched his neck to the side. The collar crumbled away, freeing his throat. Don't touch her. Ironwood wouldn't. Resolve or not, he drew the line at harming innocents. And those girls were innocent. Moreover, the footage, while damning, presented several discrepancies. But Naruto didn't need to know that. Let his mind spin, let him think him a monster willing to go to any length. If that pried a confession out of him, all the better. Will you confess, then? I already told you. He strained against his restraints. I don't work for Salem. I'm as much a victim here as your actions say otherwise. He slammed his forehead against that of the blondes. Good men and women are dead because of you. And I'm telling you, I didn't mean to do that. James leaned back. If by some chance you're telling the truth. I am. The boy pleaded with him. You have to believe me. Emerald started it. For a moment, Ironwood's heart of steel cracked and he decided to be honest with the poor boy. At least in part. Regardless of your conviction, the people need a scapegoat. With your assailant dead, well. He turned away, arms clasped behind his back. If we were to release you now, Tea would spark untold negativity among the kingdom of Vale. If not the world. That cannot happen. His scowl redoubled. I won't allow it, even if it means keeping me locked up here for the rest of my days. He steeled his heart. Even so. Naruto slumped before him. I understand. James blinked, startled by his compliance. You do. The blonde's head bobbed. Yes, I understand that you're an idiot. Excuse me. As he looked on, the young man's shoulders quivered and he hung his head, as though wrestling with some terrible choice. Ironwood. A sigh built in the back of the young man's throat. Ironhead, more like. The floor buckled around him, metal eyes snapped up, burning with righteous anger. Your skull's thick as a brick. And then his head rose. James jerked backward, startled by what he found there. His eyes weren't blue anymore. They were gold, shining with living fire. Horns had begun to grow from his head. This is why I have no faith in the people here, a stray spa. RK skittered through his teeth and trailed through his hair. Damned if I do, and damned if I don't. His shoulders twisted, metal buckling around them. The gods were right to wipe you out the first time. They were right to abandon this world. A low snarl built in the back of his throat. Listen to yourself. You're rotten. Public image. Scapegoat. His back arched, restraints creaking ominously. I don't care about any of that shit. Let me out right now or I swear, I'll blow this ship out of the sky. A fine display of bravado, but it availed him not. The restraints held. Very well, then. James stepped back, and the door shut behind him, muffling the cries within. The council has given me custody over you for as long as I see fit. He continued to speak into the view slit left behind by its sealed surface. Make yourself comfortable. I can assure you, we'll have plenty of time to talk. Within the cell, Naruto fell silent, slumping against his restraints. Ironwood smiled. It proved short-lived. Sir. A voice buzzed through his earpiece. Someone just set off an alarm in Sector 12. James frowned and touched a hand to his ear. Ozpin. No, sir. It's a girl. She's wearing a mask. An explosion rattled the ship. She's headed your way. We can't stop her. Is that so? Ironwood blinked. A mask? Was it a member of the White Fang? No. Nonsense. No one could get up here. Very well. He'd deal with it. Understood. Send all soldiers to that sector. No, I don't think I will. A seed of suspicion took root in his black heart. I gave you an order, soldier. I suppose you did. Silence reigned supreme. I've simply elected to ignore it. The voice changed. It's always so nice to sow a bit of chaos, wouldn't you agree? James. No. He recognized that voice. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. Watts. You have my thanks. Laughter greeted him through the comms. For handing me the noose to hang you. He tittered once more. I simply couldn't resist. Now, then, let us begin. Alarms wailed. Klaxons sounded off. Someone tugged at his sleeve. Against his better judgment, James looked down. A girl blinked back, clad in Atlesian colors. Until she wasn't. Before his very eyes. Her gaze shifted into mismatching shades of brown and cream. She reached up and her helmet fell away, exposing wild hair of strawberry and chocolate with a saucy smile. His mind ground to a halt. He knew that face, but from where? Her weapon stabbed out, a thin blade scything into the control panel for Uzumaki's cell. His brain was still whirring when the cell behind him imploded from within. James spun around, eyes bulging in his head. What in the world? A golden claw caught him by the face. Ironwood. Then there was only pain. 0.0.0.0. High above the skies of Vale. An Atlesian battleship spewed smoke and flame as countless explosions rocked it from within. Ozpin saw it all from his tower and pinched the brow of his nose. I did warn him. Not a heartbeat later. An almighty crash rattled his tower from top to bottom. The headmaster settled back into his chair and awaited what was to come. He drank once from his mug and began to count. 1, 3, 5, 7, now. And still no sigh. Perhaps it was nothing after all. Maybe this might yet reach a peaceful conclusion. He'd just reached 9 when the window behind him shattered in a shower of broken glass. Ironwood's body crashed through, broken and battered, barely clinging onto life. An avatar of resplendent light drifted through after him, horned and snarling. Ozpin. Naruto hissed. I've come to bargain. ... Let's go, Ruby. It's time to end this once and for all. I'm not sure I could be of any real help to you. Don't be silly. You're already helping me. I don't get it. How am I helping you? You're a reminder. Shall we go? Tilda staying human. Killing choice. Naruto understood everything. Perhaps that was a bit arrogant of him to say aloud. Nevertheless, it was true. He understood now. The world. Its mysteries, everything about it. His mind was afire with things he had never known, skull fit to burst with eerie eldritch secrets he could never have even begun to comprehend as he was before. Every trial and tribulation had led him here, to this singular moment. This glorious new existence, unfettered by time and space or anything at all. There were no strings on him now. No limits. No restraints. None. The God of Light had chosen him as its avatar, and with that choice, given him access to all its power, knowledge, and more. For all intensive purposes he was the God of Light. Yet in the same breath he was also Naruto Uzumaki, a man left with both free will and control. All the power of a god tempered by human emotion and understanding. Twin identities crashed against one another. Rather than fight, they fused into something new. A being born of willpower and light alike. He wasn't sure he wanted to remain in this form for long. It hadn't even been 5 minutes. And he was already starting to lose sight of himself. But with this knowledge came power. Strength that made up for his weakness, might to break his chains and stand before Ironwood. How did you act? A vicious kick sent him crashing through a bulkhead, all but launching him into the ship. His eyes slipped to the strange girl who had opened his cell. She saw him, beheld his glowing visage and the horns even now growing from his head. He saw her, and despite not knowing her name, knew her. Neapolitan. That was her name. She shrank back with wide eyes, looking between him and the hole he'd made. Clearly she hadn't expected this. Yet for all her fear, she didn't retreat. Naruto flicked a gaze over his shoulder, only to frown as her eyes followed his. He understood now. She wanted the cell past him. Rather, Neo wanted her partner back, wanted to take Roman from here and get the hell out of Vale while she could. The little assassin had no quarrel with him whatsoever. She was simply using the chaos to her advantage. Fine. The world could use a little more chaos. A golden brow rose. The enemy of my enemy. Neo perked up. Her lips parted, unable to speak, yet mouthing words all the same. Is my friend. She finished silently for him. Go, then. He stepped aside and made way for her with but a word. Find your boss and run. Don't get caught. She darted past him, doubled back. Then hesitated. Sorry, but I'm staying. He held up a hand to ward off the question he knew would follow. His frown redoubled, have work to do. Her confidence restored. The little minx grinned and vanished with a shattering of glass. No sooner had she done so than an angry dust round slam struck Naruto's between the shoulders. The impact alone sent him stumbling forward half a pace. He caught himself on a wall and straightened. There was no pain at all, only a faint itching between his shoulder blades. It barely tickled. He felt strong again, powerful, untouchable. I could get used to this. Return to your cell. Ironwood's voice boomed behind him. This is your final warning. Refuse and I will use lethal force. A low growl filled the air. It took Naruto a moment to realize it had come from him. His lips parted in a sigh. Boys shouldn't play with guns. He raised a hand and turned it like a key. They might get hurt. The general took aim. Naruto scowled at his weapon. Due process shattered in Ironwood's hands. There was no need to touch it. A single thought disassembled the weapon with ease, sending screws and bolts skittering across the metal deck. What are you? Blue eyes burst into golden light. I am the solution. Then he moved. Clenched knuckles barreled into James's jaw at the speed of light, fracturing his jaw to hurtle him away into the ship's hull. A decidedly ironwood-shaped impression was left behind. Another blow sent him crashing straight through it. The entire vessel creaked from the impact. Unbalanced by the blow, it began to list to one side. A wave of the blonde's hand righted it again, much to the pilot's consternation. As the flagship valiantly attempted to course-corrected, James threw a wild haymaker at him with his right arm. The metal won. Naruto saw it unfold in his mind's eye and closed his eyelids with a small sigh. Before creation there must come destruction. I'm sorry, General. You're just doing what you think is right. I understand that. Really. I do. Ironwood's metal limb never reached him. It turned to rust and crumbled away long before it came close. Credit where it was due. The threat of dismemberment didn't stop the general. Even as the pitted stump fell apart, he pivoted and lashed out with his human limb. Naruto caught his remaining arm and broke it at the elbow, shattering the joint like so much brittle glass. But he levered him into the floor. Do not have time. Planted a glowing boot on his back. For your small mind games anymore. He gave the arm a wrench and his shoulder popped out of its socket with an awful pop. Ironwood grit his teeth and snarled in pain. Naruto swung him into a wall and brought both hands down on the man's head. He struck the deck with a hollow clang. In vain he tried to rise, only for a quick kick to the skull to put paid to that. The man went down yet again, and this time, he stayed there. A quick touch to his neck confirmed his vitals. Still alive. Good. He had no desire to take life if could be helped here. Every life was truly precious. The balance must be preserved. A scarlet blur appeared in his peripherals, distracting him from such logical thoughts. Ruby Rose careened around the corner at speed and nearly crashed into him. It was only a nimble dodge on her part that prevented disaster. Eyes wide, arms flailing, she slammed her boots down into the metal floor and turned into a cloud of crimson petals that soared over his head. Still airborne, she caromed off the ceiling and landed neatly only a few feet away. Points for landing. Not so the outburst that followed. Naruto, you're all right. A valid question, given the way he looked right now. He was both Naruto and not Naruto. Just as he was and wasn't the god of light. He was both more and yet lesser for it. But the sight of her stirred something in his simple soul all the same. And the smile he felt was true. He recognized her, knew her. He knew she had changed. Like him, Ruby had become something more than herself. He saw it in her soul. She had been changed, altered, both blessed and cursed with a power that would never leave her until death. A gift that would see her hunted for all of her days. Look at you. His soul wept for what she'd been forced to do and his mouth moved of its own accord. She'll never leave you alone, now. Naruto. Quote. She gulped and dared a tentative step forward. You are Naruto, right? Sense swam to the surface as he gazed upon her for a long moment. Something in him unspooled. That divine gaze softened. Hey, Ruby. It was the proverbial pebble that started an avalanche. Ruby lunged forward, becoming little more than a streak of cloth and petals. Naruto caught her, swept her up into his arms, then down into a crushing hug. Her head crashed into his chest as she flung both arms around his neck and held tight. He didn't feel her tears, not at first, but he certainly heard her sound of her sobs came before that. It is you. I knew it. Sure is. He massaged the small of her back. I've never felt so alive. Her head slammed into his chest again. I saved you. She sniffled a little, regarding him with red and puffy eyes. But I guess you really didn't need it, huh? No, she had saved him. He'd been dead earlier before she and Ozpin used the power of the maiden to revive him. Without them, none of this would have been possible in the first place. He'd not forget that, for as long as he lived. With that in mind, he slipped out of her arms, reached down and picked up James. Then slung the stunned general him over his shoulder. Ruby grimaced at the sight. What are you gonna do with him? Don't worry. He couldn't quite smile. I won't kill him. He'll only wish he was dead. He slammed a foot forward and felt the deck rupture under his boot. Gotta watch that. Then he pivoted on one heel and launched him out of the airship at speed. James didn't move. His body blurred. Metal peeled back like skin from a ripe orange. Glass shattered. Aura cackled. Distant shouts greeted them from below as he crashed into Ozpin's tower. Ruby whistled. You sure he survived that? Yes. His aura held. Barely. It was the simplest matter to replicate himself and turn his attention elsewhere. No, not difficult at all. He existed everywhere now. And he had a promise to keep. 0.0.0.0. Salem felt a sudden shift in the air. A long sigh escaped her lips. That's unfortunate. 0.0.0.0. Cinder shrieked as someone kicked down the door to her room. She never had a chance to flee, to fight, to even plead her case at all. I am sorry. A golden hand closed around her throat. But this power is no longer yours. Ruby needs the rest. I'd sooner die. Those glowing golden eyes narrowed. I know. Parched lips parted in a wordless shriek as he ripped final half of the maiden power from her, body and soul. Her strength went with it. Healthy skin shriveled with wrinkled age. Lustrous dark hair became ashen and gray, old and brittle. Ugly veins scrawled across her flesh as she trashed in his grasp, kicking out at his chest, to no avail. She tried to grab at his face. Flailed at his arms, sought to pull at his arm, to no avail. She aged decades in an instant, until only a quivering crone remained in place of the beautiful, wicked woman she had been. No, this wasn't happening. She had a destiny. She was going to burn the world. May you find peace in the afterlife. Wasn't she? A final shuddering gasp escaped the fire witch. Then her quivering body corpse crashed to the ground. 0.0.0.0. And so it was, armed with knowledge, that Naruto stood before Ozpin now. No, he reminded himself. That wasn't his true name. Whatever he was now, he had always been Ozma. He would always be Ozma. Here was a man who had all but diminished himself for the sake of humanity, willingly crippled his strength in the hopes of a better tomorrow. A god couldn't hope to understand such sentiment. But a human could. I've come to bargain. Bit of a half-truth, that. By its very definition, the word, bargain, implied that he couldn't take had he needed by force and thus was forced to haggle for it. He most certainly could take what he wanted. Yet he didn't want to. Perhaps that was the human in him, that tiny spark of light that had first attracted the gaze of a god. It was that simple spark who wished for nothing more than a peaceful solution to all this, to simply talk things through between the two of them. Focus. He marshaled the tattered threads of his thoughts and wove them together. You're still you, mostly. Do what needs to be done. He was distantly aware of Ruby landing beside him in an uncontrolled tumble, still not fully in control of her new powers. Her eyes blazed even brighter than before, now. He felt a tiny spark of pride at that. She was a true maiden at last. She'd learned to wield her gifts properly in due time. But that was neither here nor there. His feet touched the ground and he took a moment to steady himself. Now came the moment of truth. You certainly changed. One immortal regarded another. Yes. Naruto tilted his horned head. I have. Ozpin stood slowly from his desk, paused a moment to consider Ironwood's still twitching form, and exhaled in a put-upon sigh. I don't suppose you could find it in your heart to heal him. Quote, are you nuts? Ruby found her voice first. He'll just arrest Naruto again. James is a good man, Miss Rose. The headmaster's staff came down with an audible click. He has simply been under a great deal of stress. Naruto interrupted them both by waving a hand. Faint gold light stemmed from his palm and crept across Ironwood's wounds of his mangled metal limbs. He did nothing. Those pieces were scattered back on the battleship and he had no desire to fetch them. Besides, if James was down an arm and a leg, that made him all the less likely to attack when he woke up. Thank you. Ozpin saw what he did and relaxed minutely. I would ask why you're here, but I suspect I already know. You don't seem afraid. I know that glow. The headmaster braced both hands on his cans. I know those horns. The god of light favors you, it seems. If he is truly with you, I cannot stop you. However, he interjected, I would ask that you not allow your emotions to rule you. You have great power now to be sure, but with great power comes great responsibility. That was Ozpin's concern. It seemed so ordinary. Indignation sparked to life. His emotions were all that kept him human now. Ruby tugged at his sleeve. He dared a smile for her. Right. The task. Mustn't forget. It was so easy to focus on the bigger picture and lose himself in the grand scheme of things as he was now. No. The gods had made that mistake and humanity paid the price for it. He must keep himself grounded, firmly focused on the task at hand. No matter what, he mustn't let this power to go his head. Not when he was already in danger of losing what little sense he had left. He had to act while he still could before other forces arrayed themselves against him. And so, like the god he'd become, Naruto did. It was but the work of a moment to retrieve the relic of choice from its hiding place. Ozpin had taken it from the vault long ago and hidden it away. But bereft of its protections, it was known to him. Even now it called to him, the fragment of one god to another. It recognized him, as did the nameless spirit within. It wanted him. It longed to be used as befitted its purpose. It ached. It hungered. He had but to reach out with his will and call it into his hand. Come. For it to appear, the relic of choice took the shape of an ornate golden crown with red jewels embedded within. He knew it, for he had created it. No, not him, the god of light. Blast it. The lines were blurring again. Ruby gasped at the sight of it. Oh, wow, that's really something, isn't it? Naruto frowned down at the burnished diadem. Such a little thing. How did you do that? Ozpin jerked back at the sight of it, but did not defy him. He didn't dare snatch the relic away, even after all he'd done to keep it safe. Rather than answer, Naruto set the crown on his head. The moment he did, he knew its true purpose. Choice. The spirit within whispered to him, but did not show herself. It told him of the choices he could make, the paths he could take, and there, at the end of them all, a singular shining goal that would save this wretched world. Ponderously, his gaze swung back to Ozpin. Yes, the man had asked him a question, hadn't he? It would be rude not to answer his inquiry without them. Now he knew what he must do. The vaults are immaterial. The tenor of his own voice surprised him. If only because his voice sounded so cold. They are no longer needed. New maidens will be made if necessary. The mortal no, don't think like that, seemed to take offense to those words. They have kept this world safe for generations. Golden eyes narrowed. Do you deny me, Ozma? No. The old knight flinched beneath the weight of his gaze, gave pause, and chose his words with great care. I merely wish to know if you are still, you. Humanity broke the surface once more. Naruto blinked, shook of his stupor, and spoke. You saw something in me, when few others did. Now it was his turn to speak slowly, carefully even. You stood up for me. You kept me safe. You advocated for me when nearly everyone else threw me to the wolves. A smile creased his glowing, whiskered face. I won't forget that. It's been a pleasure, Ozma. He inclined his head in a deep nod. I hope they remember you. The headmaster stiffened. Surely you don't intend to judge us. Not here. Not now. It would be so very easy to do so. The power of creation and destruction danced at his fingertips, ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. Easier to judge the masses by the actions of the many, rather than a chosen few. The cynic in him argued that it would be better to wipe this world away and start anew. The human in him knew better. Trembling hands reached up and removed the crown from his forehead. A snap of his fingers sealed it away in a pocket dimension for safekeeping. He knew what he must do now. Gather the relics, confront his other self, deal with Salem, and make an end of things. He wasn't sure if he had the strength to do it. Alone, certainly not. He was only one man, demigod or no. Even with all this new power, he couldn't save the world alone. But he didn't have to now, did he? No. He had to struggle with the words. I'm not going to judge anyone. But I will finish what you started. And for that, I need help. With a quick step he pivoted toward Ruby. Me. The fall maiden fidgeted beneath his gaze, knees twisting in thinly veiled anxiety. I'm not sure I could be of any real help to you. Don't be silly. His forehead touched hers. You're already helping me. I don't get it. She wrinkled her nose and blinked up at him. How am I helping you? He leaned down and kissed her forehead. You're a reminder. Her lips trembled. Just a little. Just a touch. Of what? What it means to be human. He pulled her close now, pulling his chin over her shoulder. Don't let me forget, he begged of her. I don't want to forget. I'm afraid what I might become if I do. What? She gulped once. What happens if you forget? I don't know. Even with the crown, that answer had been murky. Please don't let me. All right, I won't let you forget. Her arms tightened around him as she stood on her tiptoes. I promise. Thanks. He squeezed her tight. Ruby embodied the purest traits of humanity. Hope, determination, love. To forget those things was to forget who he had been. He wasn't sure he could rid himself of this power, this aura, this magic that had been woven into his very soul. And if he couldn't be rid of it, if he couldn't remove the light that was even now burning everything that made him, well, him, then he would do his best to preserve that memory. He set his gaze on the horizon and across the sea, Mistral. Today's outcome had never been in question. And yet there was one thing he must ask. He turned, regarding the little maiden staring up at him. Come with me, Ruby. His hand came down, reaching for her with golden fingers splayed. I need you. 0.0.0.0. Come with me, Ruby. I need you. Simple words. Barely even a sentence, really. And yet they shattered her world. It wasn't fair. No one had ever spoke those words to her before. Not Mom, not Yang, not Dad, not even Uncle Kiro. She'd always wanted to hear them. To be the hero in every fairy tale she'd read. It was a silly thought, a pipe dream she'd thought long forgotten. And yet here Naruto was, begging for her help. I don't understand. What do you need me to do? Naruto told her. It was a good plan. A terrifying plan. The plan a reckless hero would make. Her heart beat furiously in her chest, ready to burst out at the slightest provocation and leap into her throat. She tried to speak, tried to move, to do something, anything, but her body betrayed her completely. Her legs locked up, refusing to move. Pale fingers clenched at her sides as silver flames sprang to her eyes. This was a good thing, right? He wasn't abandoning anyone. He was trying to save everyone. I will help you. Ozpin burst to his feet. Miss Rose. But I can't just leave Yang and the others behind. You don't have to. Whiskered cheeks dimpled in a smile. I meant what I said. I need you. All of you. His brow furrowed suddenly. It's getting difficult to remember. Who I am. Who I was, before this. He shook his head fiercely, struggling to recall something. There's another me out there. Different. Darker. I have to deal with him. For that I need the relics. And your help. Sure. She fumbled for her scroll. I can call Yang and. No need. He held up a hand. They're coming up the elevator now. As though waiting for that very moment, the elevator doors swung open. Penny all but flew through. Salutations. She snapped off a cheery salute. I came as soon as I could. Yang and the others crashed out of the elevator behind her, falling in a tangled tumble of arms and limbs. Uncle Kiro landed atop them, only further confusing the merry little pile. Naturally, that little quartet took one look at Naruto and made their own conclusions. Holy shit, what in the world? When did this happen? Good lord, you could grind meat on those. Ruby made a keening noise through teeth. Yang. No. Bad Yang. Stop. Hey, sorry sis. Her sister nudged her with an elbow. Couldn't help myself. This is the end. OZP. In sank into his seat and buried his head in both hands. You'll destroy the world. No. Naruto shook his head. You're wrong. He gestured to them, we're going to save it. Even after all he'd been through, all he suffered, all he'd lost, he still wanted to do good. It was that which truly clinched the decision for Ruby, once and for all. Burning silver eyes met azure orbs ringed by gold. What can we do to help? Naruto smiled at her. Hold still. He snapped his fingers and the world vanished. The next she knew, they were looking at the spires of Haven Academy. 0.0.0.0. A world away. The god of darkness opened his eyes. So, his dear brother was playing games with the mortals once again. Low laughter split the void. Two can play this game, dear brother of mine. I could do much more for this world. So much more. But this is what I get. My reward. It's not fair. Losing oneself. Killing knowledge. Ruby didn't believe in gods. Maybe that was silly, but it was the truth. She'd never taken much stock in the notion of a higher power. Myths, legends, stories of heroes, sure. But, gods. They'd always seemed so distant. An abstract concept, you know. Something to swear by, but never to see. Never to know, never to touch. Nothing the sort a huntress in training ought to think about. Until now. Now, as the world rippled and shifted around her to reveal the grand spires of Haven Academy. She began to believe. With just a snap of his fingers Naruto had shepherded them from one end of the globe to the other. All of them. Her, the rest of her team, Uncle Kiro, even Penny. How else did you explain something like that? Answer. You didn't. Not even a semblance could do that. This was a god. Ruby spun in place, half expecting to see Beacon Tower behind her. Only to find the sprawling streets of a vast city. Passerby spared them the occasional passing glance as they went about their business, some looking quite startled to find so many people in their midst, but nothing more. She at least took the realization better than most. Oh, wow. Ruby cast a fretful gaze for her surroundings, trying not to show her awe and failing spectacularly. So you can do that now, huh? Yup. Naruto smacked his lips. It took me a bit of focus, but it wasn't all that hard. Not that hard. No one else could do this. Likewise, everyone else was rather worse for wear when Ruby risked a glance at them. Penny's hands had all but flown to her face. Yang's jaw hung open, lilac eyes bulging wide. Weiss was planted on her knees. Blake looked fit to faint. And Uncle Kiro, what were you thinking? Her beloved uncle surged forward and grabbed a fistful of Naruto's collar. I want no part of this. Gathering the relics. Are you insane? Send us back. Naruto blinked once. Can't. Sorry. Why not? Blue eyes blazed gold. Because like everyone here, you are needed, Kiro Bronwyn. His voice took a new edge, as though another, higher power were speaking with him. Through him. Now man up or go stick your head in the sand like your spoiled sow of a sister. Hey. Yang squawked. That's my mom you're talking about. Naruto rounded on her sister. Did I speak incorrectly? Well, no. Beneath that smoldering gaze, Yang faltered. But damn, that was a burn. Credit where it was due, Uncle Kiro tried to rally. How in the blue hell do you know about? I know many things now. Fathomless golden orbs regarded him. Do not test me. I have neither time nor the patience for your paranoia. Silence stretched between them and Ruby began to wonder if her uncle would draw on him. Naruto squared his shoulders. Kiro's hand settled on Harbinger's hilt. Neither yielded. Panic grew roots in Ruby's heart and riveted her where she stood. They weren't going to fight, right? Right. Kiro. I mean it. Naruto's voices lost its deep tenor and fell in warning, don't do this. It won't end well for you. I'm trying to help. Yeah, her uncle growled. Well, you've sure got a funny way of showing it. Both of you, stop. Ruby thrust herself between them before they could come to blows. This is stupid. Ruby, look at him. Kiro flung an arm at the deified blonde. He's got horns for crying out loud. No way is he the same person. You'd be crazy to think otherwise. Still. Her lips pursed in a thin line. I trust him. Kiro scowled. Think, Ruby, think. We're on the same side. He scowled at her. Are we? We are. Weiss stepped up beside her and widened the gap further, shattering the impasse altogether. Honestly, if the two of you would stop being such boys and focus for half a second, you'd see. The reality of the situation must have caught up with her a moment later, because she dared a quick glance about. Well, this really is Mistral, isn't it? Second verse. Same as the first. Naruto shouldered Uncle Kiro aside to reach Penny, and Ruby was pleased to see that his eyes had gone blue again, at least for the moment. Hey Squirt, you mind doing me a favor? The mechanical maiden saluted. Certainly. Great. Then those eyes hardened again. I want you to. He leaned in and whispered the rest into her ear, speaking so softly that no one else could hear. Ruby strained her ears. She was right next to them, for crying out loud, yet somehow she couldn't make out a single word. Was it magic of some sort? Or was he really speaking that softly? Bah! Pesky god magic. Wasn't fair. Penny tilted her head and gazed up at him. If I do this, will it save the world? A wry grin creased his face. Definitely. And, are you sure it's legal? I'll make it legal. He patted her head as an elder brother might for a younger sibling, the way Yang once had with her. Hold still and think of home. We'll see you in an hour. Whatever he'd whispered. It had Penny preening. Yes sir. See you soon. Naruto snapped his fingers. Then she vanished. Literally. Just vanished. What the heck? Ruby flailed her arms through the space her friend had just occupied. Grasping at the motes of light where she'd been. Where did you send her? Atlas, of course. Naruto tilted his head. She's going to prepare the way. Blake found her voice at last. The way for what? He smiled. Our revolution. Yang gulped. Well, that sounds ominous. It really isn't. Naruto temporized with a raised hand. I could explain, but you wouldn't believe me. Try us. Yang crossed both arms beneath her bosom. We might surprise you. You already have. For a fleeting instant, Ruby saw something different in Naruto's gaze. Something sad. He looked miserable, as if he were about to burst into tears. Ruby felt something twitch in her heart. She'd seen the relic of choice for all of an instant back in Beacon, but not what it had shown him. Small part of her suspected she never would. If she could see every choice she would ever make and where each would lead, nope. Life wasn't just about the choosing, it was about the living. Right, screw it. Uncle Kiro flung up his arms. I'm gonna get a drink. Naruto quirked a brow. Have one with the headmaster. Try mentioning my name. Wait a minute. The surly bird squinted at him. You want me to tell Leonardo we're here? Naruto smiled. It was all teeth. I'm banking on it. Drop Salem's name while you're at it. See what happens. Fine, I'll bite. Harbinger slammed back into its sheath. Doubt it'll do anything. But I've got one last thing to say. He stepped forward and slammed his head against Naruto's. Ask yourself this, what happens when a man becomes a god? It changes him, changes you, doesn't it? When Naruto didn't answer, his expression became rueful indeed. You don't split a man's soul between light and dark, and expect him to remain the same. How much longer ya got left? Hours, days. How long until you're not you? His brow furrowed. Long enough. Fine. Kiro shrugged. I've said my piece. Don't come crying to me when this blows up in your face. He vanished in a whirl of dark feathers and a dark bird took wing. Somehow, the sight didn't surprise Ruby. She'd seen too much to be amazed by something like that. Well, at least they weren't trying to kill one another now. That was good, wasn't it? And then Yang had to chime in. You sure all that power isn't going to your head? Naruto fell silent. This is strange, he said at last. I feel like somewhere, sometime. This has happened before. All this power, yet I could do so much more. His gaze swung back to the academy with a frown. So much more. I could turn all these buildings to ash and remake them in an instant. He sounded almost curious, contemplative, with just a snap of my fingers. No. Ruby latched onto him. Bad Naruto. No snapping. Don't do that. Why? He blinked down at her. Because it's wrong. You're right. Naruto touched a hand to his temple with a frown, looking lost. Why would I? And then he was gone again. I could bring back your mother, you know, he said suddenly. She misses you. Would you like that? His words were a lance through her heart, stripping away all sense and sanity. Would she? Yes. All the yes. Yang recoiled. Don't joke around like that. It's not funny. No, I mean it. He regarded her with a blank gaze. I can do that now, but there has to be balance. I'll be strong enough to do that. His brow furrowed as though listening to some unheard voice. Soon, he amended with a wince. You deserve a reward for what you're about to endure. Wait. Naruto pivoted as nasty-looking man strayed just a bit too close to their party. Someone who was only just now drawing something from their pocket. His hand clamped down on their shoulder and his victim dropped like a stone to slumped at their feet. A knife clattered from their hand. Ruby recoiled. Had he been about to mug them? She wasn't sure if that was brave or stupid. Uncle had once said Mistral had an underworld or something of the like, but she'd never paid much heed to those words. She wished she had now. Weiss hissed. Blake balked. Why did you? Life for life. Naruto murmured. Death for death. One soul for another. He's cracked. Yang muttered to herself, stepping back. Absolutely cracked. I don't think I am. Naruto's gaze swung back to her, giddy as a schoolyard boy. I feel great. He just teleported us with a snap of his fingers. Weiss whispered. I suggest we stay on his good side. Are we really meant to be doing this? Blake gripped her wrist so hard Ruby heard it creak. I mean, how can we save the world? We've not even graduated. Naruto did not answer. He turned and kept walking. Ruby cast her friends a helpless look and raced after him. Even then the blonde didn't respond. Not at first. He marched onward like a soldier to war. Stalking up the long steps leading to the academy proper, taking two at a time. Can't we stay a little while? No time. He muttered, shaking his head. My other half will have figured out what we're doing by now. Assuming darkness hasn't gotten to him. Darkness. She blinked. The game's changed, Ruby. The blonde moved even faster, forcing her to jog just to match his pace. The stakes, well, they're higher now. So much higher. We have to hurry. Those were dire words, an awful warning, yet somehow, they still made her smile. Naruto noticed at once. What? What is it? Why are you grinning? She sniffled a little. You said we. You're still in there. He blinked. I did say that, didn't I? A small, hysteric giggle bubbled out of Ruby's lips. This was insane. This was impossible. She'd just wanted to be a huntress. It had seemed like such a simple dream at the time. Now she was so much more than that. She had all the power of a maiden coursing through her veins. Now she was a friend to a god on a mission to save the world. And her friend was losing himself. She didn't know how to fix it, or even stop it. And that burned. We must look like ants to you, now. Giants, really. A worn smile creased his whiskered cheeks as he pushed the door open. You're all living your lives, while mine is ending. No. Her heart flip-flopped again, yet still she followed him deeper into the academy. Don't say that. You'll make it through this. You're tough. Well, you. I don't know if I will. His confession startled her. Even if I survive this, I don't know if I'll be me, after. He raised a hand and she realized it was glowing from within, limned by light. It's like holding water in a cracked glass. I'm trying to hold onto the memories, onto these feelings, but it's hard. And, you'll remember me. Her heart really needed to knock it off. She was going to have a heart attack at this rate. Naruto acted so much older sometimes, but they were nearly the same age. He was just a teenager. Not even an adult. Naruto stopped and leaned against a wall. I'd like to. His right hand trembled and he gripped it by the wrist, stifling the tremor. Ruby saw it and flared her semblance. She vanished in a cloud of rose petals, then reappeared at his side to latch onto his arm. No, it couldn't end like this. She refused to let it end like this. There had to be some way, some rule. Some loophole they'd forgotten. Don't forget, she whispered. Remember us. Remember me. I want to remember Ruby Rose. His hand settled on her cheek. My first friend. The G.I.R.L. who flushed me out of hiding and chased me down when I ran away. She hiccuped a little. You took my side. Of course I chased you. And I don't regret a thing. She nuzzled closer and pushed her head into his glowing chest. So this was what Yang had meant about boys. She was beginning to understand a little, now. This strange feeling she felt when they were together, it wasn't nausea, but something beautiful. It was just that, butterflies in her stomach. I don't want you to go, she whispered. His arms tightened around her. Neither do I. In that moment, that single sliver of a second, she made her choice. Naruto needed memories to exist. An experience so powerful he'd never forget. And she didn't want to lose him. She made a decision. Wasn't hard, that. Her hands tightened around him, denying his escape. He could have broken free, could have shattered her arms like matchsticks, could have done any number of things. Instead, Naruto just frowned. Ruby, what are you doing? Making a choice, she said. And giving you a memory. She leaned up on the very tips of her toes and pressed her lips to his. He made a noise of surprise. He didn't return her affections, but neither did he pull away. He simply held her, until her resolve faltered and she finally pulled away. What now? First we need to find the maiden. His head cocked, as though testing a scent on the wind. There, I have her. Let me just activate her semblance. Wait, you can do what? Without word or warning he reached out. His hand vanished through a shimmering scarlet portal and rummaged around for a moment. A startled yelp echoed from the other side. Not a heartbeat later he drew something through. No, not something Ruby realized. Someone. A woman with striking red eyes and dark hair fell through the breach with a squawk. What the hell is this? Who are you? Yang must have seen the commotion, because she ran up. Did you just manhandle my mom? Naruto blinked placidly back at her. Yes. No, by all means. She waved at him. Carry on. Right. Naruto's gaze snapped back to Raven. You have the power of spring. Hand it over. She looked away. No, I don't. Don't lie to me, he growled. I can smell it on you. Your compliance isn't really a factor here. Hold still. Then he grabbed her by the face. Yang's mother screamed. It was an awful keening sound, one Ruby would never forget. The older woman spasmed as Naruto lifted her from the floor. Red light bled out of her body, legs kicking helplessly in the air as she struggled for purchase she couldn't find. All at once, she shuddered and fell still. The power leaked through her eyes, flowed across the god's fingers, and coalesced into his palm. Only then did he release her. Raven collapsed to the floor, wasted and gasping for hair. Ruby was startled to find gray in her hair. She looked older now. Frailer. What? The ex-maiden balked at her wrinkled, veiny hands. What did you do to me? I took your power and spared your life. Thank you for your cooperation. His head inclined in a shallow nod. Goodbye. What do I do now? Make up with your daughter. Naruto walked away without looking back, or don't. Sit there for all I care. You don't matter anymore. Thrice as fast, he whirled, but not on her. Right, nearly forgot. Hey, Yang, catch. Wah. No. His fellow blonde backpedaled rapidly, hands flailing. Don't you dare put that power in me, you FFFFFFF fucker. Words became gibberish and collapsed backwards as he flicked the light in her direction. Ruby stifled a small smile behind her palm. Some things never changed. Opening parenthesis dot. 0.0.0. Do we have an accord? Destruction, EH. Yami considered the offered palm. Sure, why not? A wild grin tore across his whiskered visage. Let's burn the world. 0.0.0.0. It was a struggle to stay attached to this world now. Naruto still found it lovely, make no mistake, but it was a distant beauty to him now, as one might admire a fine painting. His body was tethered here to be sure. But his emotions were getting away from him. He kept having to reel them back in, pour water back into a broken glass. But when he looked at Ruby and her friends, all that life and color came rushing back. They were his anchor. The one thing that kept him from plummeting into the abyss, never to return. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Naruto. Ruby's voice snapped his mind back like a rubber band. I'm sorry, did you say something? Yang winced. You've been spacing out for the last 5 minutes. Oh, that wasn't good. Have I? They looked worried at that. We're here. Weiss whispered into the silence. You told us to wait. Did he? He didn't remember that. Marshalling the tattered threads of his thoughts, he found himself in the main lobby of the academy proper. Gazing upon a glorious statue of a beautiful knew what lay beneath. Many things were known to him now. But not all. For anyone else, it required a key to trigger the elevator mechanism. But he wasn't bound by such limitation. A hand rose and a soft click emanated from within. His knowledge was not infinite, and though the relic of choice had shown him the way to best Salem, he did not relish the steps that followed. There were questions he needed to ask, answers he must know before the end of this. Even poor Leonardo Lionheart was a part of this grand tapestry, strange as that might sound. Others were, as well. Kiro and Penny would push his agenda into action, even if they didn't realize it. But first, came the lamp. Right, he muttered to himself. Ruby and Yang, with me. If the rest of you wouldn't mind waiting here. If they had arguments, he didn't hear them. He made for the elevator. Eventually, the sisters followed. You don't need them. A voice whispered in his head. They are shackles. They limit you. Limits. Good. He needed limits. Checks and balances. Balances for what? There he went, losing himself again. He tried, and tried some more, but it was just so hard. One did not simply become the avatar of a god without consequences. Striving against it, he willed himself down the elevator. From there it was a matter of moments. Of merely waiting for their downward spiral to end. Ruby and Yang marveled at the beauty of the vault as they stepped out. Naruto barely noticed. He gave Yang a nudge and she laid her hand against the door. Golden fans folded back, clicking into place to reveal an arid desert beyond. They murmured anew at the sight. Naruto ignored them. He only had eyes for the relic within. No time. Had to hurry. Every second counted. He waded in to retrieve the lamp. And then he spoke. Jin. Blue smoke wafted up and resolved itself into the shape of a woman. Once her stirring beauty would have stricken him speechless. Now, he barely felt a hint of arousal or even embarrassment. Another sign of just how far he was changing. He saw her, laid eyes on her, and was not afraid. She saw him too, and her eyes widened. She, a being of complete knowledge, actually blinked. He didn't expect her to float down and bent the knee. Anything but that. Her gaze rose to regard his. How may I serve you, my lord? He blinked. You know what I am. Of course I do. She prostrated herself anew. You are his avatar. You burn with his life. What do you wish of me? Is it time to end this pitiful world? No. Horror broke the surface of his soul and the word burst out of him. We're not ending this world. We're saving it. As you say. She rose with a graceful genuflect. You have questions, I suspect. Right. Moment of truth. Tell me how many. 2 remain in this era. The respect in her voice was oddly humbling. Had he made her like this? No, he hadn't made her. Blast, the lines were blurring again. The crown had shown him one path to victory. But that didn't mean there was only one way. Best to have a contingency. a contingency, and knowledge of his darker self's plans. I have questions, he rasped at last. I need you to answer them properly. Her head bowed. As you command, my liege. Naruto steadied himself and spoke the words through pale lips. He asked his questions. Both of them. His voice bounded off the walls of the inner chamber, long and low. He phrased them wisely, carefully, with all the intelligence he'd been granted. Jin listened, and her. A moment of awful silence fell between two divine beings. She gave her answers. Somehow, they surprised him. Naruto doubled over and began to laugh. Tears sprang to his eyes. I knew it. Naruto knew what he had to do. That was no longer in question. He'd known for some time now, no matter how much he might wish otherwise. Jin had answered his questions. Her knowledge coursed through his head, both enlightening and damning him with each passing moment. Unfortunately, he didn't know if he had the strength to do what was required of him. For while his body was strong, his spirit was weak. It should have been the other way around. His spirit should have been the stronger of the two in this union, not his flesh. While he commanded this incredible power, it was eating away at him still, eroding his very sense of self. And there hadn't been much left of it. One did not simply become. Maybe, had he been whole, he would have been better equipped to resist this. But he wasn't. He was only half himself after all. Half of a soul. Some say the soul is a sturdy thing. But his felt faint, fragile, a candle in the wind, one that might be blown out any given moment. On a certain level he understood the sheer breadth of this undertaking. It was a literal gamble. A coin flip. Heads or tails. Win or lose now, they would do it together. Whatever the cost may be. Jin floated beside his shoulder, visible only to his eyes. You know not. All of them will survive the coming storm, master. You will have to choose. Naruto grit his teeth as he emerged from the portal. Quiet. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. He didn't dignify that with a response. He knew as much as she knew. He had to do what must be done, that he mustn't hesitate, that he should show no mercy. But there were times such as these when he thought it too much. Even for him, the crown had shown him the path and the lamp how to attain it. With the staff and the sword, he would finish this. Once and for all. And yet for all that he was afraid. Even no. His hands were twitching restlessly at his sides, brow slicked in a cold sweat. He could feel his heart beating in his chest, a steady thump that filled his every waking moment. Strange as it might sound, it comforted him. Fear wasn't a foreign emotion for Naruto. He'd felt it before. If he could still feel fear, that meant his emotions remained intact, for now. Which meant he hadn't yet lost his soul to the eldritch power coursing through his veins. But how much longer would he endure? He pressed such thoughts aside as he stepped forth, girding himself against the cold. Blue eyes beheld a rapidly approaching storm on the horizon. A blizzard. Now, of all times. Moreover, he didn't much like the look of those clouds. Too dark, too ominous. Even from here he could see lightning crackling through their depths. Almost as if someone retched behind him, snapping him back to reality with a start. Must you do that? A familiar voice whined in abject misery. Every time. I'm sorry, he muttered half-heartedly. Portals really aren't for the faint of heart. I'll say. A cursory glance confirmed that Weiss had stumbled out the gate after him, with Ruby and the rest not far behind. Yet it was only the Schnee who looked positively green. Poor thing. She really wasn't suited for this kind of travel. Better this than a long, grueling flight to Atlas. Guess you'd make a poor drinker, then. Kiro's rejoinder proved as swift as it was brutal, instantly redirecting her anger onto him. Although he didn't see his expression with back to them, Naruto heard her swipe weakly at him with Murtanaster. I don't care if you're Ruby's uncle or not. Say that again and I will skewer you. Preferably someplace unpleasant. Whatever ya say, mini ice queen, the drunk drawled. Least your sister's better at pillow talk. That had him looking back again. Kiro and Winter. Evidently, Weiss felt the same. Excuse me. Yang said something to that effect, but Naruto barely heard her response. Something in his peripherals made him turn. From there he looked up, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Atlas was still in the sky. It hung there among the clouds, a beacon against the oncoming storm. That was a good sign, if only because it meant his other half wasn't here, hadn't got a hold of the staff yet. And yet something was horribly wrong. He'd been aiming for the city. He knew he had. He'd opened a portal straight from Mistral. It should have brought them up there. Somehow, someway, somewhere, he'd missed his mark. How? Had they bounced off the shield? Absurd. He had the powers of a god, no. Though they were consuming him. He'd been aiming for the Winter Maiden. So why are we down here? He growled to himself, thumbing his chin. It doesn't make any sense. This must be. What had Weiss called it earlier? Mantle. Yes, that was the word. He didn't have much to draw from there. The god of light didn't know this place any more than he did, both had been before their time. He cast a look about himself, struggling to make sense of it all. They'd arrived in the middle of the street, yet there wasn't a soul to be seen. Or sensed for that matter. His brow furrowed. I've got a bad feeling about this. Naruto. Ruby tugged at his sleeve, snapping him back to reality. He pivoted to face the Little Reaper, only to find her silver eyes curiously damp. You've been staring into space for the last 5 minutes. She swallowed once. Are you okay? Had he? It only felt like a few seconds. Was he really losing himself that quickly? Sensing his distress, Ruby tugged him closer. It's going to be all right. She pressed her head into his chest and held tight. We're going for the staff next, right? You said so. I did, didn't I? It took more effort to focus on her than he would have liked. His thoughts were starting to blur at the edges again. Right. He managed a nod. That's why I sent Penny ahead of us. A meteor struck the street from on high, shattering their world. Naruto whirled, grabbing Ruby by the cloak to yank her back. He shielded her with his body. Even then, the impact alone was all but blinding. It kicked up a cloud of molten dirt and ash that sent everyone stumbling. A wave of Naruto's hand parted the haze. He immediately wished it hadn't. Because he saw her. Spattered in green blood, Penny lay slumped in a smoldering crater before them. Sparks flew from her mangled back where the skin had been stripped away. There was a gaping hole in her stomach, yet for all that, she still remained functional. Quivering, shivering with effort, she pushed herself up on one arm. Naruto soon see why she struggled, because was missing most of the other, and her legs. Ruby took one look at her and hurried forward, all but sliding down into the ruin to get at her. Penny. What happened? The poor girl heard her and stretched out her remaining arm. I'm sorry. I'm not. A dark boot crunched down on Penny's back, OBL. Iterating what passed for her spine in a shower of sparks. An awful crack filled the afternoon. Her eyes went glassy and her head struck the floor. She did not rise again. A light went out in her gaze, her lips parting for some final words. And yet none came. Ruby screamed. How could you? What? She was fairly sturdy, the newcomer remarked, regarding the still girl. I actually had to try a little. Monster. Crescent Rose deployed with a horrible screech. I'll kill you. Ruby, don't. Naruto yanked her back and threw her at Kiro. No. What are you doing? She flailed at him. I can help. Naruto shook his head. Not against this, you can't. Then he looked upon himself. You. Heavy boots stomped down, finishing his work. Hello, friend. This thing was both himself and not himself. The dark half of his soul, the part Salem had stolen from him, made manifest in this ghastly new form. Gone were their humble orange and black rags, replaced by flow-dark robes not unlike those of Salem. Dark horns jutted just above the back of his head, while his eyes were a twisted red bearing black sclera. Even his smile had been warped, there was an edge there that had never existed before. The sight of him rankled in the worst of ways. Whoa, he heard Yang gasp as she stepped up beside him. That's your other half. Looks like he had one bad day too many. No, he glanced at Penny's broken form with a wince. That's not me, I wouldn't do that. He extended his senses outward. Was that? It was. Penny's soul was still intact, as was her core. He'd crushed her back, not her head. Perhaps Pietro could rebuild her, if they survived the next few minutes. She would live. She had to. To see a pure soul snuffed out like that, no. He wouldn't allow it. Blake stepped back, completely unaware of his own musings. Are you sure? Oh, that hurts. His counterpart mocked. Naruto hates me. Naruto thinks I'm not worthy. Naruto doesn't want me anymore. Ruby snarled and tried to lunge forward again. Kiro caught her by the cloak. Ruby rose. I've got nothing on you. You're surprisingly pure. His counterpart grinned at her. Or you were, until I killed your friend. You hate me, don't you? Do you want to kill me? We'll stop you. Silver eyes flashed. Ouch. Remarkably, he recoiled. Forgot about those. Seems Ozpin chose his maiden well, even if she is a runt. You're acting like a child. Weiss huffed. Are you going to insult us all day, or do you intend to fight? A child, you say? Eerie eyes locked onto her. This from the stuffy little shrew with daddy issues. The facade dropped as he scoffed. Spare me your prattle. Fix your family before you try to fix me. Murtanaster flashed out. Why you? Of course I'm him. His counterpart carried on, heedless of their righteous anger. I am a part of Naruto. The words were a knife, stabbing at his surety. Just as I am a part of all things. His bleak gaze traveled over each of them, taking in their hate, their scorn, their sorrow. You runts think you're better than me, don't you? So proud, so arrogant. His lips curled back in a snarl, revealing jagged teeth in a dark rictus of a grin. Each of you have someone like me inside you. You've all spent your days training to fight, to hurt, to kill. You're no better than me. Blake drew Gamble's shroud. We're not murderers. Naruto K. knew it was the wrong thing to say the moment the words left her mouth. Darkness, for he could think of nothing else to call this twisted caricature of himself, tittered softly at her rebuke. And so speaks the queen of hypocrites herself. His other self scoffed. How many lives did you take, Blake? How many crimes did you ignore in the White Fang? Her resolve faltered. That's not. Leave her alone. Naruto made a grab for Yang. But it was too late. In the time it took for him to whirl, the blonde brawler was already moving. Ember Celica barked, dust propelling her forward at impossible speed in a wild haymaker. Her fist plowed into darkness head-on, striking with enough force to disembowel an Ursa. Yet for all that strength, all that power, she accomplished nothing. Darkness didn't budge. His sole concession was to turn his head to the right, and even then that seemed on sufferance more than anything else. Yang realized her blunder a moment later. Scarlet slits flashed back to Lilac. Oh, shit. Vivid red eyes regarded her intently. Narrowed. And you, Yang Xiaolong. Even as she flung herself back, he reached up with callous ease and caught her by a wrist. The girl with no self-control. Pining after a mother who doesn't even love her. Ember Celica buckled under his grasp, breaking as his touch superheated the metal. I'd call it funny if it weren't so sad. Weren't you meant to lose an arm? Allow me to remedy that. Naruto flickered into existence behind him and caught his hand before he could make good on that threat. TCH, his other self scoffed. Spoilsport. Let her go. Why? Darkness blinked back at him. Shouldn't naughty children be punished? Naruto wrenched his arm back. Your fight isn't with them. It's with me. Maybe. His grip tightened and a cry fled from Yang's lips as bone buckled beneath, the metal of her weapon fusing with her flesh. Lilac eyes flashed with flame and she smashed her free fist into his face. Once, twice, thrice. The only feat she accomplished was mangling her remaining gauntlet beyond any hope of repair. Still she flailed at him with dogged determination. At last, Darkness rolled his eyes. A little fight in ya, All right, I can respect that. Keep your arm. His hand blurred. Yang shot backward, all but bowling Blake over. The duo went flying, crashing headlong into Kiro and Ruby. The latter found their footing first. Don't. Naruto's warning fell on deaf ears. Harbinger and Crescent Rose descended upon Darkness and were summarily rebuffed by the blackened blonde. That twisted gaze found Kiro next. Kiro Bronwyn. He dodged Naruto's retaliatory swipe with a merry laugh and kicked him away. As I live and breathe. A true huntsman has entered the fray. How's summer? A clawed finger touched itself too. A lone whiskered cheek as he settled upon the scorched earth. Oh, right, she's dead. Bronwyn shuddered. Shut up. How does it feel, knowing you lost it all? Darkness tittered, his laugh teetering on the edge of madness. Your sister's a shriveled wreck. Your best friend's gone to the grave and my, such a failure of a father. And now bot your nieces are going to die. You really are a curse to everyone you love. To his credit, the elder huntsman held his ground. Funny you should mention death. His voice emerged as a low rasp. Only dead man I see is you. A shadow fell over Darkness. Rasengan. It was a good hit. His jutsu struck his doppelganger dead in the chest, then twisted, smashing him down into the dirt. His counterpart held in equal parts rage and fury, to no avail. He found himself dragged down by the sheer forces pressed upon him. Then he lashed out. Something tore through the jutsu and slashed a bloody line across Naruto's chest. The sheer impact ripped him back. But he dragged darkness with him, sending the two of them spiraling away from the others. A building burst before their backs as they soared through the air, the sheer impact of which forced them apart. Their bodies struck the street, still smoldering. Naruto found his feet first. What's wrong? No words for me. I didn't come here to debate philosophy with you. Darkness staggered to his feet. A clawed finger rose, stabbing forth. And I wasn't talking, you idiot. I was stalling. For what? High above them, the storm rumbled anew. Dark. Naruto spread his arms, grinning from ear to ear. For her. She's nearly here now, and her army with her. Salem. If she brought a grim horde here. Naruto pushed forward, driving darkness back before he could draw him in further. How did you know I would be here? Wasn't hard. His darker counterpart cackled as they clashed. Why come to this place? He sneered at him and lowered his voice in abject mockery. No, you're here for something. Or should I say, someone. You want the Winter Maiden and the Staff of Creation. Did you really think I'd stand by like a good little boy and let you? No, a laugh now as he shook his head. You're not the only one who got a godly upgrade, brother. Although, and here his smile gained an edge, I think I've taken to mine a bit better than yours. The God of Darkness is rather fond of me. Naruto's gaze shifted. There was a sword at his other half's side, a dark relic pulsing with tainted power, the spirit within long since subsumed by fell magic. That had to be the sword, the relic of destruction. Naruto felt something akin to pity. Perhaps he should have gone to Vacuo first, denied his other half a vital tool in their arsenal. Instead he'd sought choice and knowledge. Too late to change course now. Darkness followed his gaze and grinned. You want this, don't you? He reached down and drew the corrupted relic from his belt. You want to take it from me. I can see it in your eyes. Naruto dared a step forward. What have you done? Ah, you're worried about the Summer Maiden. Don't be. I left her alive in the ruins of Shade. No arms and legs, but alive. He ran a finger across the serrated blade, admiring his reflecting in its hideous surface. I wonder how long she'll last by herself. This isn't you. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with great care. You've been corrupted by Salem. You're being controlled. Darkness wasn't having it. Kill your friends, and I'll give the sword to you. Naruto's words trailed off. The logical part of him, the godly part, saw the reason in this. Surely the sacrifice of 4 lives was an acceptable one. The needs of the many must come before those of the few. No. His human half balked and shoved the ghastly thought away. Well. Darkness offered him a hand in friendship. It's a good deal, isn't it? I'm nothing if not fair. Join me. Naruto's fingers flicked out behind his back, tearing open a portal at his flank. Weiss, can you hear me? The Shni startled as a telepathic tether touched her mind through the gate. Yes. Good. I'll be brief. Get to the Winter Maiden. Take Blake and Yang with you. Me. She bridled at his command. And then what? Exclamation mark quote. You already know. The staff. Go. Credit where it was due, the Shni didn't hesitate. Not a bit, not a jot. She was already in motion before he finished speaking. A line of glyphs sent her rocketing forward. She dipped down for all of a moment, speeding to her teammates, who were only just now righting themselves. Not this time. Darkness saw them and it dove forward. Only for a hand to catch him by his horns and reel him back. Behind him, the portal closed, denying him the opportunity he sought. You idiot. Darkness broke his hold with a brutal headbutt. The staff is worthless. It wasn't. Unite the relics and the gods would come. They'd make this right. An elbow scythed back, obliterating his ribs and levering him through an apartment complex. Misery, misery, misery. Darkness stalked after him, shaking his head. That's what you've chosen. I offered you friendship and you spat in my face. I really didn't want to fight you, but I won't go back to being your damn horse. They collided in a shower of sparks. Fine. Darkness righted himself in the air with a snarl. I'll beat you down first. Light grappled with dark, each straining against one another. I'll tear you apart and absorb you, he sneered at him. Then I'll be the one holding the reins. The sparks fizzled out. Did you really think it would be that simple? Naruto. Took the next punch dead on the forehead. He didn't budge an inch. Blue eyes blazed gold. Well, bugger. His darker self blinked, somewhat taken aback. That should have killed you. You just hurt someone I like. That is not a safe place to stand. A glowing hand snapped up. And there was light. 0.0.0.0. ... I hate portals. Weiss all but stumbled out of the tear in reality, retching for IAR. Her stomach fought her every step of the way. The human body was not meant to walk between dimensions like that. The universe didn't like its peas mixed with its porridge. But now was no time to be sick. She had a job to do. Yang and Blake were the next through, the very picture of health. Not fair. Xiao Long blinked. What isn't? No, it's nothing. She sighed and pushed herself upright. Naruto had been good as his word. Her gaze found her target soon enough. Ice blue eyes swept across a room rimmed with medical equipment and alighted upon a frail woman sprawled in a nursing cot. Her eyes were closed, chest falling in uneven breaths. That must be her. And yet she was so small. Frail, even. Her skin clung to her bony body, dress a thin sheet around her frame, hair little more than wisps of white on gray. The faint chime of a heart monitor said she yet lived, but the beats were few. Far too few. Weiss staggered toward her, wincing a little as her ankle protested. Blake said something. She didn't hear her. Ma'am. She nudged the bedridden woman once. I need you to wake up. Because if she didn't, no. Don't think about that. Bleary eyes fluttered open. Hello, dear, the maiden rasped. Did you need something? Weiss grit her teeth. I know this is sudden, but we need you to get up. Please. Up. Bleary blue eyes blinked up at her. I've been waiting here. For some time, I think. What was I waiting for? The room shook, as a mighty explosion rattled the world. Somewhere in the distance, she thought she heard a scream. Naruto's scream. There's no time. Can you stand? Oh. Another blink followed the last. I had a job to do. I was supposed to protect the power of the maiden, until I was ready. Her brow furrowed, and she didn't seem to hear her. I worry I may have lost track of time. But you can tell James, I'm ready now. Her gaze rose, fixing upon her. Did you need something? Yang's hand touched her shoulder. Weiss. I don't think she's all there. In a better world, in a better place. They could have waited, could have talked to her. Blake stepped forward. I'll do it. Blake, who had already taken so many lives. If Freya couldn't be moved. I'm sorry. Weiss wanted to let her. She didn't want to do this. She mustn't do this. She must do this. She shouldered Blake aside, ignoring her gasp. If she didn't, who would? Atlas rattled around her, a stern reminder of the battle below. If Naruto fell, if that thing defeated him, then he'd come for her. She couldn't fight as she was now. But maybe, with the staff, and a bit of luck, just maybe. Freya smiled up at her like a kindly grandmother, oblivious to it all. Did you need something? Weiss drew Murtanaster and raised it high. Her eyes burned. I'm sorry. Her weapon stabbed down. Just once. Blood spattered the wall. 0.0.0.0. Just roll over and die. Naruto sprang backwards as a clawed hand sought his face. It missed his left eye by mere inches, but the shockwave alone tore divots in the street. He whirled, using the lamp as an impromptu shield against another fell blow much to Jin's protest, and caught his foe by the face, crushing him against a wall. Stop this, he begged, holding him in place. I don't want to kill you. Well, I do. A knee slammed into his gut. I'm free now. There are no strings on me. I go where I want. Kill whenever I wish, bed whomever I please. Think, damn it. He held tight in spite of the pain. That's not who we are. Do you even know the first thing about pleasure? An angry Rasenshuriken shrieked in his face, threatening every cell in his body. Here at last he was forced to retreat, if only to avoid certain death. And you do. Ha. Darkness threw his head back and laughed. I've got the closest thing to a goddess warming my bed. Life is good. Our children will rule this rotten world. A flicker of movement was his only warning. Not that you'll be around to see it. Stars burst before his vision. He stumbled, grimacing at a sudden pang of dizziness. Not now. Weak. I can't believe you were ever a part of me. Naruto staggered, caught a punch with his face and flung darkness away. Pain slowed his movements, his foe writhed in his grasp. Slipping free. He knew what was coming. He just wasn't quick enough. A brutal flourish drove the sword backwards, puncturing his stomach T. He buckled as the blade burst out his back, then swung up, severing his collarbone and taking along as it cut its way to freedom. His wounds began to heal at once, but too slowly. Far too slowly. He reeled on his feet as his darker counterpart wound up for a killing blow. "You'll never make peace this way." The words had a surprising effect on his brother in arms, for he went terribly still. And then, red eyes burned with balefire. "Peace." He kicked him through a building. "Peace is a lie." A rousing roundhouse sent him crashing into an office. "There is only passion." When he looked up he found a giant Rasengan bearing down on him. Golden palms rose, absorbing it into himself. Darkness barreled through it and smashed him down with the sword, hacking at him like a madman. Through passion I gained strength. They collided in a storm of blows. Through strength, power. Naruto staggered as the relic took his right arm. Through power, victory. A crushing kick smashed him into the sundered street. Another trapped him there. "My desires shall free me, while you deny yours." Broken fingers latched onto his ankle. "I don't deny my emotions. I simply don't let them rule me. Look at you, wasted and gasping for air." A foot stomped down on his chest, crushing his ribs. "But you don't get to go yet." A grin tore across his face as something cracked in his chest. "When your friends are in ashes, when everything you are is forgotten, then you have my permission to die." Die. The word resonated with him. He was going to die. Beaten down by his darker half, his stronger half, and for what? Mercy. No. He didn't want to die. He wanted to live. He'd finally found a reason to. For all the pain, all the suffering, all the sadness and sorrow, there was someone who understood him. A fleeting image of a girl with silver eyes flashed before his vision. Blood bubbled up against his lips. Bye. Oh, don't worry. The sword of destruction rose ponderously, prepared to pierce his heart. "I'll kill her once I'm done with you. Really, this fight is boring. I'm not even trying here." Let go. He had to let go. If he kept holding back, he would die. And at the end of the day, despite it all, he wanted to live. Blue eyes flashed into gold, flakes of orange dust touching his eyelids. "Don't make me laugh." A flicker of movement in his peripherals was his only warning. He looked up just in time to see a sage-empowered fist hurtling toward his face. Darkness never saw the rest of the strike that hit him, but he certainly felt it. One moment he was standing tall and proud over his fallen foe. In the next, his body skipped across the ground like a flung stone, demolishing buildings as it soared through the air. He righted himself thrice as quickly, hit the ground in a pointed crouch, and willed his wounds to heal. "Enough. You're beneath me and I'm going to, too." His words trailed off as he reached for the sword, determined to cleave him in tow. Instead, his hand closed around empty air. His weapon was gone. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." Red eyes snapped to the left, alarmed to find the weapon now locked within the Naruto's fist of his foe, burning with holy light. A bead of sweat ran down dark Naruto's brow. "Well, that's unfortunate." Naruto stood, growling as his wounds sealed. He could feel his body shifting, changing. With each second he became less himself and more like the god of light. This time he embraced the changes. Scales sprouted upon his arms as his teeth sharpened. His shoulders twisted and thickened, his slim body growing a few inches taller. Golden luminescence crawled through his veins. Cracks scrawled across his face, motes of light shining from within. If this continued, he wouldn't even be human anymore. More. He snarled at himself. More power. Give me enough to crush him. "You're worried about this fight being boring." The air thickened around him as he raised his arms. "I'll spice it up for you, then." His stolen sword slashed out, tearing a gaping hole in his darkness, ripping through his chest like so much paper. The doppelganger staggered with a snarl, hissing as his flesh bubbled and closed. Naruto stalked after him, relic dragging behind him. Sparks spat from its tip as it dragged across the ground. "You know what I think would be really boring." He grinned as horns sprouted once more from his head, joining the now golden wings on his back. "If you keep holding back, so do me a favor." His eyes blazed with the divine flames of light himself. And fight with everything you have." His dark side grinned. "Gladly. All stories having an ending. Each and every one. That's the way of life. In the end, it falls to us to make our own, I suppose." What will yours be? Till the end. Conclusion. So who won, Pops? A blonde. Brow quirked down at the child in his lap. I would have told ya, if you hadn't interrupted me just now, Boruto. Ah, come on. A tiny fist tightened around the lapels of the king's mantle. You can't just stop the story there. I wanna know what happened. A great many things happened. The ruler leaned back into his throne with a smile. Some of which aren't meant for the ears of children. There was a terrible final battle. A climatic finish, and a great many foolish people died. The world began to fall in line after that, after which your mother learned to live a little. And then you came along. A rough hand descended to muss the 5-year-old's hair. You should be thanking me, really. Your mother almost named you after Ozpin. Blech. The boy crossed his arms and sulked. What about the relics, though? And the gods? Or the maidens? That's fair. His father nodded. All right, then. What do you think happened? That was the question, wasn't it? Boruto was only 5 after all. Children weren't meant to think of such things. He still tried his best. You said your soul was split. Correct. Dad nodded once. Right down the middle. Light and dark. It's not something I care to experience a second time. So whoever was stronger probably won, right? Whiskered cheeks dimpled in a sly smile. You're not gonna tell me, are ya? I will, someday, his father reassured him. But not tonight. Dad was mysterious that sometimes. He ruled the entire world, but he always made time for him. Sure, his stories were a little strange, and he could be a bit scary to anyone who wasn't of the family. But a dad was a dad. And he was his, make no mistake. Besides, being a prince wasn't so bad. He had loads of friends, and his parents were always there for him. What more could a kid want? Boruto huffed, still mildly put out by the lack of said ending. Stingy bastard, leaving me on a cliffhanger. Language. That whiskered visage creased in a frown. Don't let your mother hear that. Crap, she'd tan his hide. Reet. He drawled. Mom's scary when she's angry. Naruto sighed. She's pregnant with your sister. Cut her some slack. Where is she, anyway? Naruto smirked. Behind you. Police, I'm not gonna fall for. Someone or something blew in his ear. Boo. Boruto shot into the air with a shriek and tumbled off his father's lap. He never hit the floor. A pale arm caught him and pulled him again, pressing him against Dad's chest. The rich contralto of a woman's laughter filled the room, echoing off the walls of the chamber. He looked up with a scowl and met bemused eyes. Bright as his own. Moom. He whined. Don't sneak up on me like that. Tried to warn ya. Naruto chortled a little. How were the negotiations? She grinned at him, a smile full of teeth. Aggressive, but fruitful, eventually. Oh, how so? Boruto knew what was coming. Alas, he didn't manage to close his eyes in time. Still holding him with one arm, Mom leaned and kissed Dad soundly on the lips. All but crushing him against the back of his chair. Arg. It burned. The traumatized youth covered his eyes and gagged. Ew. Gross. Stop. 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 Now, Mom smiled. It was a rather pleasant smile for someone so frightening. You'll find someone you love someday. Never. Girls are gross. His parents exchanged a bemused look. Mom found her voice first. What story were you telling him this time? Oh, just the one about how you and I met. Dad waved a hand. He's been bugging me about it. Splendid. She hummed. I have a few details I'd like to add. Did you mention the gods? No, not yet. Naruto sighed softly. I was getting to that bit when he interrupted. Yeah. Boruto perked up, bright eyes alight. So what happened? Who won? Well, dear son. Mom settled into the throne beside Dad. It ended with, as for answers, well, those were surprisingly easy to find. One had but to look at Boruto's piercing eyes. They were the deepest, piercing red. The color of darkness itself. Eyes of Salem. No, you can't let it end like that. Naruto blinked once, somewhat startled by the remark. He looked up from the storybook he'd been eating to find a pair of bright eyes glowering at him over it. Faced with such a fearsome pout, he couldn't help but quirk a brow. He tilted his horned head. The girl didn't waver. She met him stare for stare. Until he finally yielded and laid the book down on his lap. Even then she didn't relent. Her sole concession was to cross her arms and nestle. Why not, Summer? His brow furrowed. I thought you liked scary stories. No. The 7-year-old shook her head, sending her dark hair swaying from side to side. Not like that. Too spooky for me. A tiny hand slapped his leg then jabbed an equal. Tiny finger at the storybook in his lap. Tell it better. I want a happy ending. A low contralto of laughter echoed her words. You heard our daughter. Her mother hummed sleepily into his side. Keep reading. I was just about to doze off, too. The god of light sighed in his head. Is this what I've been relegated to? A mere bystander in these affairs? Naruto shrugged. Better than being dead. Summer made a keening noise. Story. Fair enough. Appease the little one. All right. He chortled softly. Now where were we? The hero took up his sword to face the wicked fox, his voice pitched low as his daughter looked on. Enraptured, blade in hand, he faced the darker half of his soul and the wicked which he'd conspired with. But he was not alone. With him stood a reaper. Oh, his wife hummed into his shoulder. I remember this part. This is where you turned into a dragon and beat down that damn demon fox. Demon, Kurama squawked in his head. I've reformed since then. Why am I still the bad guy? Well, you were. Before he reunited his soul. Fairly put, brother. He has no right to complain. Hush up, the both of ya. You're living rent-free in here. Naruto coughed into a fist. Guys. Trying to tell a story to the kiddo. Lemme do it. His wife plucked the book from his hands. You're telling it all wrong. Such a spoilsport, Ruby. Their daughter hummed once, closed her eyes, and snuggled close to her parents as they told the tale together. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the sight of those orbs. Why shouldn't he? Their daughter was the best of them, her F.A. Intly whiskered cheeks dimpling now in the slightest smile as she closed her eyes. They were the deepest, pools of silver, reflecting the purest of light. They were silver eyes. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.